I turned my real-life car into a Grand Theft Auto 5 styled car. Have you ever played Grand Theft Auto? Of course you have, and even if you haven't, here's a brief explanation. So the cars in GTA are knockoff cars of real life. They're made by combining two or more cars from real life. Here are a few examples of the cars from those games and what they're based off to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. So obviously, I don't have the money to completely make one of those cars from the game because you have to get your own custom chassis, a custom fiberglass kit, and match all those body lines. But for now, we're stuck with just taking the theme and concept of mashing two cars. By the way, I'm not the first one to do this type of build. There's actually someone who owns a car called the Zuricon, which is GTA style. He basically combined a Nissan Fairlady Z and combined it with a Huracan. And that's what I'm talking about, is when you take two real life cars and combine them together. So even though there's no car currently in GTA that has a Z combined with a Huracan, you know what I mean? Like that, the theme of this video is me just taking two cars and combining them. I'm not actually doing an exact car from the game. With that all said and done, introducing to you what I decided to pick, which was a Corvette combined with an Aventador. The result, the Pegassi Aventador. So the side profile of this car was virtually untouched, which still allows the car to have the long hood front engine stance of a Corvette. The front is actually a livery inspired by the Ferrari FXXK Evo, as well as the grille, hood stripe, etc. That way I wanted it to look more exotic-y and less trailer parky. The final, absolute creme de la creme though, is the rear, which has basically been overhauled entirely to look like an abomination, but boy am I proud of that abomination because it is based off of the Aventador, at least what I could do with it with the stock Corvette body lines, because like I said, I couldn't afford to just straight up do a fiberglass kit or actually rip an Aventador's rear and put it and just glue it onto my car because I would need chassis modifications too. Actions speak louder than words, so the easiest way to tell my subscribers that I was always a motherfucking ricer is to just tell them to bear witness to my Pegassi Aventador. So in Grand Theft Auto 5, most cars are either split into two different cars from real life by combining it front and rear or combining it top and bottom. So I decided to do a front and rear combination, whereas Zuricon, he did a top to bottom combination. So his top half is a Nissan Fairlady Z, while his bottom half is Lamborghini Huracan. And by the way, you can hate his car all you want, but his bumpers probably cost more than whatever shitbox any of the haters are driving. He used authentic OEM carbon fiber Lamborghini Huracan bumpers and retrofitted them to his Z's body lines. That's dedication. That must have took tons and tons of work and tons of money. Like, let's be real, this is a really expensive car. So back to my case, I decided to do a GTA 5 styled car by doing a front rear split for combination. So the rear half of my car would be the Aventador part, whereas the front would still be Corvette, kind of. Now my front ended up looking more Ferrari-ish because, well, now only the side profile is Corvette. So I ended up doing more of a 3-car combination with the base still predominantly being a Corvette. And I think that's okay because a lot of cars in Grand Theft Auto 5, some of them have one car that predominantly still shows with the others, but they'll have 2 to 3 other ideas tacked onto them. So like I said, I'm just aiming for the theme. So we're gonna start with the mods on the rear first. The Aventador-styled louvers, Aventador-styled exhaust tip, Lamborghini Aventador taillights, authentic carbon fiber rear diffuser, vortex generators, and obviously scissor doors. So there were multiple large Lambo-styled exhaust tips that were available for the C7, but I went with this trapezoid polygon tip that's in black chrome. I chose black chrome because I'm sick of cleaning the exhaust suit off of bright silver or regular chrome tips, and I chose the trapezoid shape because my stock exhaust housing that's in the diffuser, that's already shaped like a trapezoid, so I figured it'd be perfect to shape it to match that shape. And on top of that, I thought this of all the exhaust tips looked like an exhaust tip you would find in Grand Theft Auto 5. I do think a hexagon would have looked equally as cool, believe it or not. I did try to go for it. So a hexagon is Lamborghini's signature shape that they use in a lot of their automotive design, and it would have fit decently fine here. Now, Catech has a carbon fiber hexagon exhaust tip for the C7 Corvette. They do not sell it new anymore, so I had to look for used ones. Unfortunately, those still fetched $800, and they were only recommended for show cars since because they were made of carbon fiber, the thin layer of resin and clear coat that sits on top of them actually strips off after extended use. And since I daily drive my Corvette and also spiritedly drive her in tons of performance situations, these were out of the question, despite looking the coolest. So, Catech, if you're watching this, please re-release this. I'm sure it's popular enough where a lot of C7 owners will buy it on its second release, but make a stainless steel or chrome one. There's a reason why actual hypercars still use metal exhaust tips, and that's because metal can handle the heat, not carbon fiber. Metal's also cheaper too, so if this was like a $500 stainless hexagon tip, I would have just straight up bought that 100%. However, I'm still satisfied with this trapezoid one. I think it looks perfect. It sits too far in. I wish it came out a little bit more. I can adjust that later likely. I'll just do some welding, but for now, I like it. And since some of y'all are probably like, what does it sound like? Really doesn't change my car's sound that much. Here you go. Here's an exhaust clip. Now onto the louvers. They're custom molded to mimic the Aventador styled rear louvers, but since my car isn't actually mid-engine, they're raised up a bit higher since they're sitting on top of a window instead of ventilating through one. So you're probably like, well then they're just pure rice then, which yes, of course they are at this point. Do you really think I care about being called a ricer? I'm fully committed to this knockoff Lambo GTA 5 looking ass theme. I think having a theme build matters more to me than whatever the haters are gonna say, and I'd love to see more people do abomination combinations in the future. So I really want people to do GTA 5 styled cars in real life, and I want that to be a trend that picks up because it's really fun and cool. Now the shape of these louvers are a little bit different due to the differences in window shape. So I actually have an AutoArt C7 and AutoArt Aventador right here. Here you can see on the models that the Corvette's window is larger on the top than bottom, whereas the Aventador is the opposite. It's actually larger on the bottom than it is on the top. So the louvers on the Aventador taper from largest to smallest when they work from bottom to top. I cannot do this to my rear window unless I change the entire trunk, and I'm way too lazy to do that, much less commission a company to custom mold it, so I decided to just conform the louvers to the current shape of the window I have. So these Aventador style louvers in my Corvette actually taper from largest to smallest from the top to bottom instead of the other way around. They actually still look fine. I personally think they came out decently fine. Now my favorite part of my rear though, of course, are these beautiful Aventador taillights by Morimoto. So the stupid rear light bezels on these, they do block a functional vent. They actually block two functional vents. One is diff cooling, one is transmission cooling. But I finally came up with a great solution. Whenever I'm daily driving, I legally need reverse lights to be road legal, so I just keep them in. But whenever I do performance driving, like rallies, autocross, drag racing, or track racing, I don't go on a track, come on, I'm a ricer, you know that. I only drag race and autocross at best. So any performance situations, I can just take these out. So C7 taillight bezels are the easiest thing to remove. It takes 10 seconds. You just take a plastic pry bar, you unclip them from all the clips, and then you unplug the wire. So I don't know why I complained about these in the past when that's such an obvious solution that I can just take them out during track days. Because a track or autocross parking lot or on a drag strip, they don't require you to have reverse lights, so you're allowed to have them off. But for regular real life driving, normal scenarios, I keep them in. Onto the actual brake lights themselves. Damn! Look at these sequentials. I'm a sucker for sequential lights. I've always been a sucker for sequential lights, and I made that clear the day I bought my Mustang, and I repeated it every single day onwards. To any doubter who thought that these weren't going back on my C7, shame on you. Shame on you for doubting my love for sequentials. I will always sacrifice functional cooling just to look cool, because say it again with me, rice is nice. You think I rice this out? Nah, it's iced the fuck out. Anyways, these vortex generators probably don't do anything. I just put them here because, again, do I have to repeat myself? I'm a ricer. That's what I get with the program already. And before we move on to the front, the last mod on the rear, authentic carbon fiber diffuser, which is the most expensive mod on the rear. It is actually more expensive than all the other rear mods combined. This cost my firstborn child, who ain't even born yet, but that's how much it costed. Is it worth it? Absolutely. This is easily just the best upgrade on the entire car. So the garbage plastic diffuser on the C7, not only did that weigh 4 pounds more, as you can see, this was obviously not for weight reduction's sake. Yeah, you only lose 4 pounds by changing from the plastic to the carbon fiber, but the real reason I bought it was the quality. So memes aside and ricer aside, this is actually the least rice mod on the car. It is a functional diffuser. It is shaped and properly suited, better actually than rear diffuser, because it has 2 diffuser fins that diffuse air in a correct direction, because the stock diffuser sends it upwards and kind of just gets your rear dirty all the time. But most importantly, the rear bumper. So Jeremy Clarkson, if you watch Top Gear, or nowadays he's on the Grand Tour, he would always screw around with every Corvette by pushing on their rear bumper, because a lot of fiberglass in the Corvette's rear, because of how empty the rear is more so than the rest of the Corvette, it's so easy to push in. You can use 2 fingers on the stock C7 bumper, and if you push in with just a little bit of force, you can go several inches in. This carbon fiber, you can lean your whole body weight against it and it doesn't cave in. That is quality. That really finished the rear up, because when you think about proper Lamborghinis, they usually have rear bumpers front and back. So I was like, yo, can I really call my car a Lambo wannabe if I'm not gonna make half of the car's rear good old carbon fiber? And now that you saw the absolute Lambo abomination that was my rear, let's finally move on to the front. So here at the front, we have an angry grille, a custom hood stripe, white accents, and carbon fiber front bumper, and I even colored the A-pillars in. Now the reason I colored the A-pillars in is I wanted to get rid of the signature floating roof body line that modern Corvettes have. So the name of the game here is to be a knockoff car, so anything that's signature Corvette I have to do the exact opposite of. My goal is to literally make it where my car looks so strange that when someone only has 5 seconds to look at me as I pass by them in oncoming traffic, they think to themselves, what in God's name did I just bear witness to? The absolute opus magnum of my build though would be this custom design that I thought up of. The reason being, I thought bringing another Italian car to the mix would really help sell the knockoff mixed car theme GTA vibe that I'm going for. So being a Lambo-vette wasn't really good enough due to the fact that my rear, like I said, wasn't literally me gluing a Lambo rear onto my car. So I was like, I gotta make up for it by doing more Italian things to my car. So I took the Ferrari FXXK Evo style design and tried the best possible to make it follow my car's stock body lines. So as you see here, I've got good old stripes, accents, and a two-tone wrap. Originally, I was going to make the accents follow the side vent, just like it does on the FXXK Evo, and then make them meet up at the headlights. And it looked alright in Forza, so here's pictures of me modeling it in Forza, and here's an FXXK Evo to where it does it on that car, so that's what I'm trying to mimic. So in real life, we actually took the vinyl, we didn't peel the backing off of it so it wasn't adhesive yet, we just laid it on my car to see how this pattern would look in real life, and it did not look anywhere as good in real life than it did in Forza. So let that always be a testament that the things you see in video games or in Photoshop will never speak for the real result until you actually measure it and do it to the car in real life. It didn't look bad, but it didn't look quite as good. So instead, my goal was to I was like, look, we can just change the body line to the one that the Corvette already has. And did a two-tone wrap, with dark blue being the top half and black being the bottom half. And we put a white line to separate it, also to make up for any seam lines where they didn't properly meet together. And by the way, now I'll talk about it. This design is the largest bottleneck of this entire build. So many wrap shops would accomplish this design by doing multi-layered patterns. They do the base blue first, then they do the black on top of the blue, then they do the white on top of both of them. However, I've requested to get PPF applied on top, which immediately made 80% of shops straight up tell me, look, PPF is only recommended to sit on top of one layer of wrap or paint at a time. So if you either have a multi-layer design or you have a solid color with PPF, you can't have them both. And I was like, can't you just do the multi-layer design as a single layer and then just basically make it where the material perfectly meets the other material with no seam line? And you can probably imagine most shops were just like, dude, that's out of our skill level. No way, get out of here. I did finally find a shop in Suwannee by the name of Top Car Wraps, and I've already spoken about it in depth in this video above that I'll link right here, and I broke down the pricing. They did it for a bargain compared to every other shop that took the job, probably because they were a local shop. Now, I'll clarify this again for people who misunderstand. Multi-layer design wraps are not hard. Literally any shop that you can go to locally can probably do a multi-layer design. PPF on wraps also is not hard, because if you have a generic solid base color swap, you can PPF that all day at whatever Billy Bob Jim's shop that's down the street from you. It's only when you combine both those requests, where like, I want to PPF on top of a design, and they're like, but you can't put PPF on multiple layers, you have to do it as a single layer, which means we have to do the design as one single layer, and that's where things get expensive and very difficult, and both those conditions being met is where you run into trouble. So basically on my car, it's not, the blue basically perfectly meets the black. They basically measured it literally perfectly, and then they put the PPF on top. And that to me is very impressive work. I'm very proud I found a shop that can finally do that work. That was the big bottleneck. Lucina, believe it or not, was a bottleneck for decal shops because she wasn't being done by the wrap shop at all, obviously. I was never going to do that to begin with. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my abomination of a car. The Lambo wannabe, the knockoff Aventador, the Walmart Ferrari, whatever you want to call it, but to me, it is a theme I've always wanted to execute since the day Child and me played Grand Theft Auto, and that's the combination abominations that you see in those games. And personally, I love every single curve of this absolute car that is my Pegassi Aventador. Thanks for watching, and if you think this is even remotely close to being a finished car, hell no. I've still got weeb stuff to put on it, so if that interests you, make sure to subscribe. That's right, the rice only thickens from here. This is big boy thick rice. This ain't no drippy rice soup. Because later this month, or hopefully early next May, I will try to find a flamethrower kit and outfit it onto my car so I can be that moron who shoots massive flames. That is the most ricer thing someone could do to a Corvette. Why am I doing it? Come on, you know who you're, do you get who you're talking to at this point? The rice keeps coming. We keep it coming out here fresh and for everyone, so make sure to subscribe for something different, something fun, because here we don't judge, because here we don't hate. As long as you stay, just know to me that rice will always be nice. So come and join this crusade. Bladed Angel out.